Welcome, everybody. We're going to be learning chapter 39. I know we started 39, but it's been a few weeks, so we're going to start it again from the beginning so we get the flow and we'll read the entire chapter. Umayata, and from now, Yuvan. And Rabbi, you could just, I'll just read whatever I have, and hopefully by that time you'll be finished, by the time I get to the bottom of the page. Maybe you can make it slightly smaller. Okay, let's just read. Umayata. Oh, 1 second. Because then I can have more letters. Okay, let's read this page. Omiyata, and from now, Yuvan, it's understood. Derech Klal, when we look at the bigger picture, the holistic picture. Bema, so before, it's always good to look at the details, and that makes things meaningful. But then we need to connect the details to look at the holistic picture, that we don't get lost in the details. Always the details are there to make the bigger picture more real. Letters are called vessels. In other words, vessels don't change. And nikraim levushim, they consider clothes, and clothes, you do change clothes. In other words, we're starting to learn how everything in the world is the words that God is saying inside himself, like words inside a mind. And we're going to start to recognize that God is speaking. We just don't know how to read it. And if somebody knew how to read, you see, a person who has divine inspiration called Ruach HaKodesh, not the same as, not exactly as much as prophecy, but even Ruach HaKodesh and prophecy is a higher level of that. They are not seeing beams of light. They're seeing the regular physical world as you and me. They just know how to read it. They understand everything is a word, and when you put the words together, it creates another meaning. So when you put a bunch of words together, you create, it's like clothes, because the meaning that's being transported through these letters, you could use different letters to transport the same meaning. So that's why it's clothes. But we all have to agree that a certain word means a certain word. We have to agree that both of us have to agree that that word means and that thing, and it's not going to be changed. And that's what we mean by a vessel. So in Kabbalah, there's the Kabbalah of the Arizal, where we look at everything like the soul gives life to a body. That's how we're looking at everything. And that really helped us. That sort of outlook was very useful when we were learning the higher unity. But now when we're looking at Malchus, we're learning the lower unity. In other words, how the things in the world that really don't add to God. So then it's a different, there's a different metaphor used in Kabbalah, and that's the idea that the world is a language. This is like the Kabbalah of the Ramak. L'chayrat, seemingly, b'chinas ha'keli, seemingly, the vessel, hu nechshav min ha'etzem, it's like part of the essence. Gam shehu ha'magbil etzem, even though it limits the essence. For example, letters, there's always letters even in the essence of the soul. Letters are one with the essence. Al derech dugma, like the metaphor, Moshes hachakika b'tzir, like the metaphor of engraved letters in a picture, a biblita, or a picture that's sticking out, like we have on stamps. Stamps and seals have letters that are sticking out, and they're part of the thing itself. So it's not a separate thing. It's part of the actual material itself of the stamp, the letters. So that's a metaphor how we have letters in our essence. Our essence, we always have letters in our essence. Kach beruchnius ha'oisius, so too spiritually, in what we can see, letters of the soul, kamagilei etzem achai, are the same as the relation of a living thing, is in movement. Or like the life force, which gives life to a body. From a rag doll, it becomes a living body. That's what souls do. This power is hidden in the soul itself. Just like we see in the letters of intellect, they are in the essential power to think. As soon as a person gives birth to a thought from the power to make thoughts, that's the liquid around the brain, shalei, yetziu ima oisius shebehem, letters that hold this idea, this intellectual thought, are born together with it. They come from this liquid around the brain. And through these letters, the way this information is being delivered in a concrete way. Davar in something specific. Skala. This is like the letters of all any intellectual thing. Anybody that discovers or uncovers a new intellectual concept, a new discovery. They're discovering something that was existed but was not known. And this person, and immediately the words to capture that idea are born. Varaya, and to prove this, Mibes b'nei Adam, from two people. Baskalasam seichel v'svar echad. They're both thinking about one intellect. This person will bring them out in a certain types of groups of words. And another person will bring them out in different ways and different connections of letters. And they're saying the same thing. Just like we have the explainers of the Talmud, Masbirim Leseichel V'Svara Echad. You can have more than one explainer, like run the Rishonim, the scholars of the Middle Ages, focused on making the Talmud understandable, because through the Great Migration from Babylon, which is Iraq nowadays, where the Talmud was written, to other countries like Spain and France, through the migration, the ability to understand what the Talmud is really trying to tell us was lost. Different language, and the rabbis of that time, the Rishonim, the Middle Age scholars, that's from 500 years ago to 1,000 years ago, they gave a lot of effort to write the explanations to what the Talmud is saying. And you could have, it was mainly one of the first ones was Rashi and his grandchildren. So they can all be explaining the same idea, Befirish Rashi, in a Rashi. And if you can read the Talmud and read Rashi and be able to understand it without any English, that it really is a accomplishment, and it's very appropriate to get to that level of scholarship. So they're explaining, Rashi is explaining, and his grandchildren that came later, explaining the same thing, just in different words. Rosh lived a little bit later, more close to the end of that, like a few hundred years later. Varan and another of the middle-aged scholars, Guy Gavna, they're all using a specific, their own language. And all of the explanations, they're really being directed, really their intent is really one idea. Each one is using an explanation using the letters of his own intellect. Explained in another place. It's like we said before, as soon as an intellect is born, others letters are born with it. Shenivra bahem, shenira bahem bebechinas yesh. That now with this wordsmithing, this concept is concrete. Cholo va'apapi shem metayre umagbile nikomachim nechshav im ha'etzem. Even though the shematare, even though that the words that were smithed out to explain this, give it a sort of description. That's matare, is a description, umagbile, and limit it, give it a boundary. Nevertheless, even though the letters do that, nechshav ima etzem, it's considered part of the essence. Chulu. And the simile, something interesting, there are letters in order to describe, to communicate a want. And there's also letters that communicate emotion. For example, love in a heart that is revealed. Can we go further? Bebechinas Isis Shalah. Using their own words. There's words of love and there's words of want. It is now revealed in as something concrete. Become my fanim shenim in different ways. Kamay shekol echad seichel echad shemizgala b'terufim shenim. Like one intellect that's revealed in different word combinations of words. And this is what a vessel is, that the definition of a word, it's something that makes something concrete, describes, limits, and it's considered part of the essence of the soul. Like all vessels, they're part of the spheres of the 10 spheres. In other words, we learned about the vessels of the 10 spheres. Well, thoughts and words also have their vessels. Essa sphere is kliya, it's a vessel that holds light, the chachma of insight. The kliya, the chesed, and there's also the vessel that holds the light of chesed, v'netzach, and winning. The idea of winning, and similar things, that this is the making an emotion concrete is through the vessel, and their description and definition, like it's known, and as it is written in the, let's go further, Chavches 28. Shemis avas ha'er nasa keli. From the thickening of the light becomes the vessel. V'gam sheresh hakelim. So the thickening of the light becomes the vessel. So basically like this, when it comes to radio technology, there's high frequency. In other words, high frequency, we're speaking about how many times a wave goes up and down in a second, and there's also layers of the sky during the day when they get energized by the sun, they actually rebounce certain radio waves back to the earth. So what's interesting, that's a vessel, because what is the idea of a vessel is that it stops the thing that it's holding, stops it from going further. It says over here, this is the shape that I'm giving you. You can't go any further. So that's what we have, is during the day when it becomes energized, it's invisible, but it becomes a vessel because it's a thickening of the light. Some energized plasma from the sunlight thickens in a way that it can bounce back radio waves. So why it's the same idea. It's like certain things can go right through the table, certain waves, but my hand can't. And because it can't, so now the table is a vessel that we can place things on because things can't go through it, even though other forms of waves go right through it, certain radio waves. But it's a vessel for those things. And the source of the idea of making limits and boundaries is even before the idea of making light. Because what was created even before light is the potential matter. Now. So matter is like vessels and energy is like light. But there are letters in the essence of the soul that even was created even before the creation of the light, or the essential, in the essential, the essential desire to want va'atainug and to feel accomplishment. Tainug is a very high level. Ach im kol zeh, nevertheless, um, with all of this, or no, alcohol, nevertheless, gam zemes, something else is also true. Sha'osis nikraim gam kem b'shem levushim. Letters can also be considered as clothes. What do we mean, like the metaphor of clothes? Kihine b'chinas lavush udavar nivdal. A lavush, clothes, is something separate. Mina etzem, from the essence. Legamri, totally. Rak shaboy mislabesh ha'etzem, just like inside it, the essence is enclosed in these clothes. Just like the body can put on a separate clothes. When it's actually separated from himself. When the clothes covers him up, and can hide the person. So too, letters of intellect, after the intellect was created, mitziusan, in a certain existence, the essence of the intellect, mislabesh, is enclosed, umisalam, and it's actually hidden by him in these vessels. Kiloi nigla rak bechinas, because what's the only thing that's actually communicated and revealed to others is the letters shalaseichel of the intellect, shu oifen yeshuse, because it creates the way that this intellect is experienced as something concrete, etc. Chulas, etc. Ki'ilu ein davar chutz me'oifen zeh. It's as if there is no other way. You're thinking there's no other way of saying this. There's no other way of saying this. That's what it feels like. The truth is, this essential light of the intellect is not separated, but it's specifically in this way, because it could be portioned out and expressed in a different way. This intellect could actually change its clothes. It can get enclosed in a whole different tzirufim, wordsmithing, different wordsmithing, legamri, totally different words. V'chlalam einu magbim v'chlalam einam magiyim be'etzem musay klal. And generally, all the different ways of using words to express the same idea don't really capture the essence of the idea. They're just carriers of the idea. It's just that the idea is enclosed in them and it's revealed itself to others through them. Like we've explained before, you can have one idea, one intellect, in the language of the Mefarshim. They have different form of language, and if a person reads one of these middle-aged explainers of the Talmud, you can get used to their way, and you'll be able to tell who is speaking from the type of words he's using. The same thing applies in the letters of want. Because you could have one want, and it's simple, it's not defined. Mislabesh become a minei giluya efanim shonim. It could actually express itself in different ways. Ve'einu rak ratzon echad, but it's really only one want. V'kamei belavush yislabesh. It's like as if this want is putting up certain clothes. Mislabesh haguf, just like the body gets enclosed in different clothes. Kach harotzen, so too the want, ba ba'ofen gilui shalai, it comes in a certain way, it's revealed, lahaflif tamid, and it's able to change its expression all the time. K'mei reim ba'isas hamachshava hamislabshim lemidis, just like we see that thought becomes the clothes for an emotion. Shava ba'alev, that the love in the heart, it became revealed in certain ways. I love you. Believe in the heart. As soon as this love goes into the thought, it immediately gets enclosed in thoughts. In this, that thought, as if it's clothes putting on a body putting on different clothes. Mamish. It's exactly like that. So he says, a love is a love. Now it comes in the thoughts. Oh, flowers. Oh, a nice house. Oh, we're going to go on a holiday. Oh, we're going to go to a restaurant, right? And he's just the mind is putting on different ways, different types of clothes, but it really is all about one love. That's why it says God changes the thoughts, mamish. And that's the way we work as humans, and that's the way it works in the big world, in the entire universe. Because the clothes of the thoughts never stands in the same place. Even for a moment. That's what the thoughts do. They always taking off, and putting on new thoughts. Upasha takes off, putting on new thoughts, etc. The machshava, it's always going from one thought to another thought, etc. Kach gama, or you can slow the thoughts down, you can't stop them. Right? If you slow the thoughts down, that little, the moment between one thought and another thought, you get to the essence. It's a subtle feeling. It's the mind. If it just slows down, there is an essence between the letters, right? There's an essence. You get to the essence of the soul. So what you can't do, you can't stop the thoughts, but you can slow them down, right? Etc. Which the different rules apply to the revelation of the letters of the intellect. In the essence canal, it's considered like it's like people consider it one with the essence. It looks like it's identified as letters of the thought, but it's different. This one is intellect and the other one is emotion. So emotion has much more changing of clothes. After they created when it's created from the intellect. In other words, when you're giving off the intellect, you have to work hard to say the same thing in different words. It takes effort. So it seems like the intellect is like a vessel. The words of the intellect like a vessel for the intellect. Maybe you can't find better words, but an emotion, you're always changing. An emotion, I feel like this, you can changing it to a million ways of expressing itself. It's always close. Nimsa moving, and it turns out that it's understood that both are true. B'sherish, when it comes to the source of all letters, sometimes they behave as vessels, When they are in their source, where they cut out from, in the like stone is cut from its source of stone. So they basically they cut from their essence. And it's totally one with the essence. And now, as we mentioned above, and also words become separate clothes from the essence. The gamre totally canal, like we said before, the yes, because letters come from the surrounding energies. Because that, what is the surrounding energy? And the surrounding energy is going to create a limit on how far something can go. That's the source of the idea of clothes. And that same source creates vessels, which limit, matarim, define, kulu, etc. Canal, like above, like we mentioned above, like it's written in another place. Now we are now going to use this for the real purpose why this is written. Because it says now from all of this we can understand when we use seichel, our intellect, lamaila, we want to understand how the greater universe works, to be able to connect it with the essence of God, to fulfill the mitzvah of God, of aligning everything with God's oneness. Derech klal, and we're going to look in a more of a holistic way. B'chol bechinas levushim. When you look at all the, we're not getting particular, when you look at all the different clothes, the machshava dibur ma'isa of thought, speech, and action, gimel minei asius, there are three types of letters. There are the letters of thought, there are the letters of communication, and there are letters of action. Thought, speech, and action. B'chol prate spheres, each, and you have these three by all the parts of the 10 spheres. Bishtashalus, when it goes down the chain order of events of the order of creation, ad ruma mailis, and you can connect them up to the highest levels, ba'atzmos erein seif, in the essence of God's infinite light, ba'asius, going all the way back to the letters of Galif, Galifu, like it says in the beginning of the Zohar, that God carved out, but the Hiri law, the upper purity, where there's nothing else, and he took that, like, took the stone from where the stone comes from, he carved out letters, which these letters would eventually, these letters would become the thought, speech, and action, which actually make our world. We are letters inside, like just like letters of ideas inside a brain. You have different types of letters. You have letters in your brain that capture an intellect. You have letters in your brain that capture feelings, and you have letters in your brain, an audio, right? Audio. It's not written letters. It's more audio letters. And then you have letters that are pictures. That means letters of action. So different types of letters. We have that, and they all connect back to the essence, and they always existed. So who came first, matter or energy? There is an answer to that. It's matter, but matter is energy. But who came first? The concept of matter came before even energy, because there's no point in revealing the energy unless you're going to have something that's going to give definition, limit the energy, something that's going to hold the energy, that it can actually be useful. Any questions, Rabbi?
Let's see. Any questions? I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Shakaya. Thank you, Rabbi Shirik.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. Thank you. Thank you.